if you look at the Trump administration, right, and if you look at a lot of the material that maybe comes out, what is your next book on? Will you focus maybe on more the kind of the machinations of politics in Washington?
So I'm in the middle of a series which is likely going to be a book because I found the material is just riveting. And the premise is this. The Obama administration spent enormous resources preparing for the transition by law, but also by sense of obligation. You know, hundreds and hundreds of people were deputed for the better part of a year to prepare every agency for the next people coming in, because our government is a strange government. It's 2 million people in it, but there are 4,000 people who are politically appointed who run it. So the head gets lopped off every 4 years and new people come in. And what's supposed to happen is the day after the election, into the Department of Treasury, into the Department of the Energy, into the Department of Agriculture, like 20, 30 people are supposed to roll in and get briefings. There are briefing books set up, there are people waiting to talk to them. And in many cases across the government, after Trump was elected, nobody showed. I mean, like the student didn't turn up for the class. Best class ever created in how the government runs, and nobody shows up. And so I'm taking the class, is what's going on. I know literally, I'm going from place to place, and I'm having the people who would have educated the Trump administration educate me to get a sense of where the risks are that come from, not from actually ideological opposition, because much of the government does is there's no ideological dispute. It's from essentially mismanagement, neglect, ignorance.
But so, Michael, how big are these briefing notes? I mean, is this is it like a Dostoevsky book that they kind of hand out and say, this is where the coffee machine is, and by the way, this is our foreign policy?
And yes, and these are the people who are good, who you can rely on to be good at their jobs. These are the weaknesses in the government. These are problems we see coming ahead. This is, for example, in the Department of Agriculture, which must sound like the sleepiest subject anybody ever wrote about. But I would manage to persuade Vanity Fair to put 13,000 words about it in their magazine because it's actually riveting. They're sitting there trying to deal with, for example, how we're going to grow crops in a different climate. You know, a $3 billion a year science budget largely devoted to long-term food production problems. And there are a lot of people who really know about this problem who are managing this budget into this job, replacing a distinguished agricultural scientist. Trump rolls a right-wing talk show radio host from Iowa with no background in science at all.